Welcome back everyone. This video is a little bit later than planned. Had a lot going on over the weekend. Let's talk about some of the weekend's action. We'll talk about Gareth A. Davies, a little bit of GAD. GAD's making some headlines again with some more Gareth A. Davies sort of content. Where should we start? Let's start the weekend with what I thought was the most the greatest performance, the most uplifting performance of the weekend for me was Paro against Subriel Mateus. For a lot of reasons, you know, a couple of them being he was the away fighter fighting in Puerto Rico, Australian, he's being Australian, and Subriel Mateus being Puerto Rican, obviously sort of being looked at as the next great Puerto Rican. So he was the away fighter, kind of on the away show, away from home. And what a testament to absolutely superb conditioning and someone who was confident in his boxing skills and someone who was just stuck to a game plan. We see it so often in today's game that, to me, fighters aren't fit enough. I remember Duke McKenzie on TalkSport a while ago. Oh no, forget the fact it was fucking TalkSport, but Duke McKenzie's been there, you know, multiple weight world champion, and he was talking about the fight between Fabio Ward and Fraser Clark, and saying quite frankly they weren't fit enough, which they weren't, quite frankly. Say what you like, but I know they're heavyweights, but that ain't the point. You know, you go back to you look at the fights, sort of Ali, Fraser and those sort of fights, the pace they were boxed at, and not just that, you know, even in recent history heavyweight fights. But point was, fight professionals not really being fit enough. And you looked at Paro and his output and his conditioning and the fitness, what he showed, because to be in front of a puncher, not he was in front of a puncher, he beat Subriel Mateus with movement, boxing ability, volume, punch picking, and he done this great thing where a lot of times when action will break, and especially the fighter on the back foot, the majority of the time, well, as action breaks and both fighters are sort of resetting, they will take sort of a step back, hands might drop, and both fighters will use that time to have a little breather before the action sort of starts again. And a lot of times when this happened, he would sort of take one step and then throw an unexpected jab or an unexpected right hand, exactly at the point where Mateus is sort of thinking, well, this is where we get a few seconds break, this is where we get to reset. And Paro never let him do that. He'd always throw this jab in there just to keep him offset for that little bit longer, and it worked great in his favour. But his punch volume was great, his movement was great, his boxing ability, his shot selection. And there was a point around the 6th round when Mateus started to come on strong, started to land his shots. But Mateus really didn't look like there was any plan B, or when, you know, when he wasn't going to get the stoppage. Right, how do we work out this problem in front of us now? How do we go to plan B and use my other assets? It didn't really look like anything. Is it a fact that, as happens a lot of times with punchers, he's a victim of the puncher's curse? Meaning that when you don't get the knockout after a long string of knocking everyone out, and you become reliant on the fact that you will get the knockout, when the knockout doesn't come, because you've kind of neglected your skills in other areas a bit, because you've always had that great equaliser, as Teddy Atlas calls it, you know, you get a bit stuck and you fall into the trap of the puncher's curse. And is Mateus a victim of that, or is he a victim of being, dare I say, one-dimensional to a degree? You know, I said before that fight, is he the next Puerto Rican great? Well, he's got a lot of work to do before he becomes the next Puerto Rican great. Many of you probably watched that. You saw Felix Trinidad ringside, and he was being interviewed. And then we come on to Louis Pabon, the referee, who, that was one of the most disgraceful refereeing performances I've ever seen. From, I think it was round 2, or the end of round 2 or the end of round 3, he came into the corner and gave Paro's corner, and Paro himself, a massive dressing down for not respecting me enough. I told you in the dressing room beforehand, you should respect me, and you didn't respect me enough. Just fucking disgraceful. And then he, after that dressing down, he then took a point which was just innocuous for me. And then there was a sort of a slip late on, and I was massively surprised he didn't call out a knockdown. But the DAZN commentary said it best. They weighed it up as I can't remember who made the quote, but the quote was, "There's 10,000 people in this arena, and he's got to realise that none of them came here to see him." And that was perfectly put, because talk about, you know, ego and overinflation of his own position, but he just seemed like he wanted to be the star of that show, and he wasn't the star of that show. The fighters are always the star of the show, not the referee. So yeah, that was a bit of a disgrace, but absolute, you know, fantastic display by Paro. He should get all the credit in the world. And I don't know if any of you were the same, but on the decision, because you were fully, you know, you wouldn't have been surprised at all had Paro not got the decision. It gone Mateus's way, being the home fighter, but he got the decision, so that restored a bit of faith, you know, because dodgy judging decisions, you know, they're not rare, are they, in our sport? And then I suppose the main domestic fight of the weekend was Richard Riakporhe against Chris Billam-Smith. I said beforehand, Richard Riakporhe kind of had all the attributes and all the gifts in this fight, and Chris Billam-Smith had to resurrect the amount of times he would get hit. In his last fight against Masternick, he got hit a lot, way too often, and if he got that hit that often against Riakporhe would win. Could you imagine this Riakporhe performance and having, say, a Teddy Atlas in the corner? Because it reminded me a little bit of a couple of Michael Moorer performances under Teddy Atlas, where Atlas would have to give him the whole, you know, if you don't show me something, you don't give me something, I'm going to stop this fight. The whole, you know, riot act, because there was just no desire from Riakporhe. I had a discussion with Joe Stunner about this, and I don't know if Riakporhe is really tight at the weight and he knows his engine is really going to be affected depending on what pace he fights at, and I'm not sure about that, but it looked like that could be a reason. He didn't look particularly drawn, saying that his head did look a little bit large in proportion to his body, even though he's got a fantastic physique. He's an amazing athlete, but I think desire might have been, you know, just as big a part to play. There looked absolutely no desire, and it also looked like no real game plan. It looked like jab right hand, that was it, jab right hand, and then a lot of time he'd throw the jab right hand, and that would find himself falling on the inside, and then be on the inside, and he's got absolutely no clue how to fight on the inside. And he would oftentimes sort of work a way in, just sort of step and fall in, find himself on the inside, and not being able to do any effective work at all. Where Chris Billam-Smith is quite cute on the inside. He will throw, and this is what he did to win the fight predominantly. If Riakporhe threw the right hand and the jab, or fell in, and after the right hand and the jab, he would find himself on the inside, or after just moving in and find himself on the inside, Billam-Smith would always finish. He would always finish the exchange. And he would finish the exchange with Riakporhe. There was a couple of times he opened up and landed like 3s and 4s, but it literally was a couple of times. But every time, and it would always end with Riakporhe being up on the inside. Billam-Smith would then come back with little hooks around the side to the body, cute little uppercuts through the middle, and then little hooks to the head. And they would be sort of 4, 5s and 6s. Not massively powerful, but enough to touch and enough to rock the head and enough to just dig into the body and enough to always win the exchange, and in doing so, win the rounds. I thought he won wide, quite right, and I picked Riakporhe to win. But Billam-Smith got it absolutely right. I've always rated Shane McGuigan. I think Shane McGuigan is one of the best trainers in this country, one of the best young trainers in the world. Shane McGuigan and Ben Davison are great in my opinion, and I just thought the combination of Shane McGuigan's sort of game plan, Billam-Smith's calmness and discipline in being able to stick to a game plan, a perfect game plan, really gave Billam-Smith a pretty easy night. Yes, he was a little marked up superficially. You know, he caught a couple of the right hands and the jabs, but other than that, you know, physically it was a you know, a moderately sort of difficult fight. But that will be one of the easiest fights at kind of the level that he's at the moment. In terms of, you know, how much cognitive process it took, he just stuck to a game plan, a solid game plan, kept to the work, kept shipping those little shots around, so little hooks around the body, little upcuts through the middle, little hooks to the head, after Reactpaw had thrown his, and that was enough to see out a win, a really wide win in the end. So really made up for Billam-Smith. And now the talk is Jai Opetaia, and I think Jai Opetaia is a really good fighter, but I do think people are dressing him up as, you know, almost a next Alexander Usyk type deal. And, you know, I see Billam-Smith v Opetaia as a genuine fight and one I really look forward to. So, brilliant performance by Billam-Smith, really made up for him. I said before the fight, I like both guys, I do like both guys. Billam-Smith is a great character, so again, really good. I feel a little bit for Reactpaw because, you know, he's gone unbeaten, he gets the fight, you know, his home, against his home fans at Selhurst Park, and just has a really, is terrible performance the right word, or just a no-show? And a show of absolutely no desire and no passion. There wasn't once in that fight with Reactpaw I looked at him and thought, that's a guy who's setting out to win this fight, or has a want or a passion to win this fight, because he never looked like it. So yeah, disappointed for him. Yeah, Gareth A. Davies was about this morning. Gareth A. Davies was talking about how he's bemused at the fact and can't believe that Anthony Joshua is higher than Tyson Fury in the WBC rankings. I mean, you know, we all know about the WBC. We all know what a sham of an organisation the WBC are. So, regardless of that, but he was of the position of, and G-Man done a great video about this, about how just because Gareth A. Davies, and his excuse for his bemusement at the fact that Anthony Joshua was above Fury in the WBC rankings was because, in his opinion, he still thinks Tyson Fury beats Anthony Joshua. Well, as G-Man said, and I would have to only echo, unfortunately, rankings don't work on who you think will beat another guy. Rankings work on results. And going on recent results, the rankings dictate that Anthony Joshua will be higher than Tyson Fury. Just because you think, oh, well, I think Fury will beat Joshua, should be higher than him in the rankings. Yeah, if only it worked like that, eh? Unfortunately, it doesn't. And I don't know really what he bases the fact that he believes Tyson Fury beats Anthony Joshua at this point in time, of going on the form of both. And if you look at common opponents, you know, Anthony Joshua's results are all better, aren't they? And yes, I'm aware that because fighter A beat fighter C and blah blah blah, I know that, but you know, they are a yardstick. Common opponents are a yardstick, and if we use that yardstick, and if we look at the performance of Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk, now people always say, you know, and this is quite true, that Alexander Usyk comprehensively beat, some say schooled, Anthony Joshua in the first fight. I think the second fight was a lot closer personally. I thought there wasn't a massive amount in it. I think Usyk absolutely ran away with it in 9, 10 and 11. But certainly in the first fight, yeah, he was schooled, I'll give you that. But Joshua was never, ever all at sea and absolutely gone in the way that Tyson Fury was against Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk, you know, for all intents and purposes, for round 9 at least, beat the absolute shit out of Tyson Fury. And that's the most hurt I've seen Tyson Fury in his career. We can talk about the knockdowns against Deontay Wilder, and they were brutal knockdowns, but he got up and recovered very quickly. The battering he took in round 9, I have never seen Tyson Fury hurt to that degree ever. So you have to question the fact of the life Tyson Fury has led, the abuse that he's put on his body through the sesh life, the drink and the drugs. Joshua always lived as a professional at this point, and the fact that Tyson Fury always dined out on the fact that he was quite difficult to hit. People used to talk about a matrix offence and the fact that he moved like a middleweight. He never moved like a middleweight. But he was hard to hit. He was difficult to hit. Great upper body movement. He had great dexterity. He was great at anticipating shots coming at him. That seems to have gone because now he gets hit and he gets hit regular. And now when he gets hit regular, he gets hurt regular. So, you know, Gareth, isn't it? Yeah, that was it. Little chat about the weekend's action. And I'll see you all soon.